your time has come.
All right, thank you for tuning in. Nice looking. No, I'm not going to say. You know what? It's not really nice looking by the typical definition of nice looking, but I like it because I like the fact that the weather is changing, some cool air is moving in. You know, I'm one of those guys that summer's done and let's move on to the next thing because I kind of like the next thing. After I'm into winter until maybe January 2nd, then I'll be ready for the heat again. Our next guest is going to talk about a topic that everybody loves and everybody hates and everybody loves to hate. John Peick is an attorney, a college professor, an inspirational speaker, and he's written a book. It is called Clients Are From Earth, Attorneys Are From Law School. I love the title, and you're going to love the book as well. You know, we have, for all of you, I'm sure you know this, we have on Wednesdays John Fuller coming in here. He's an attorney from here in Ocala. And, you know, just getting to know John kind of gives you a little bit of insight into what a lawyer does and why maybe the rest of us lay people don't quite get it sometimes. I kind of liken it to an experience I had with a real estate agent not too long ago, where she was explaining to me all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that I had no clue about. And it made it, I guess sometimes if we just understand, it makes things a lot easier, I guess is the proper English there. John Peick is our guest, and he's on the phone right now, so let's make him wait no longer and find out about his book, Clients Are From Earth, Attorneys Are From Law School, Insider Secrets for Partnering with Your Attorney and Winning Your Legal Case. And John wrote the book with David C. Madison. So let's speak to John. John Peick. Good morning, John.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Where are you? Where are you calling from?
Seattle, Washington.
Wow, you got up early.
I got up early, and it's wet and cold here.
Is it okay? It's cold. Well, see, in Florida, I don't know if I speak for everybody, but I like when it shifts a little bit, you know? We have snowbirds coming here hoping it's going to be warm all winter, but those of us who live here all year long, we say, come on, a little bit of cold weather, huh?
Well, in Seattle, we just get used to 4 seasons of rain.
Okay, so but we can't sue the meteorologist, can we?
No, we can't. We like our meteorologists, but, you know, the only problem with Seattle is we lose most of our shorter members just to the amount of rainfall.
What do you mean you lose your shorter members?
They drowned.
Oh, and that's the book, right? That's the kind of the sense of humor you have in the book.
I guess.
One of the things you hear people say is you can sue anybody for anything. It doesn't mean you'll win. Is that true? Is that a layperson's myth?
Unfortunately, it is true. Anybody can sue anybody for anything, but again, just like you said, doesn't mean you're going to win. Most responsible attorneys, however, won't take irresponsible cases, but people can go pro se into a courthouse and file an action and try to represent themselves. So it's turned into a very litigious society, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. And do we need lawyers? You said a term right there. Is it pro se? What does that mean?
Pro se means you're representing yourself. You're not using an attorney.
Okay. So legally, do we? I mean, it makes sense to use an attorney. I mean, why would you go do your own dental work, for example? But I mean, legally, are we allowed to do our own dental work, our own legal services?
Yes, unless you're mentally incompetent and somebody gets appointed for you, yes, you can represent yourself. But by the same token, do you do all your own plumbing, your own electrical?
Exactly.
You know, do you fix your car? I mean, some people are competent to do that, and there are lay people out there who would be perfectly competent in a courtroom, but not the vast majority.
Right, right.
And it seems like the person that tries to represent themselves is already looked down upon by the judge and the other counsel and the jury. I mean, they already have this preconception that the person cannot articulate his or her case well, and that's not the case sometimes.
It is not the case sometimes, but I have to tell you that the attitude the judges and lawyers have toward pro se litigants is more of a painful response than looking down at them, because there are people who are very literate and very well-spoken, and they do a good job, but others, it's just painful to watch.
Yeah, I tried. I guess I can share a little bit of personal experience. This is years ago, so there's no more pain. It's gone. But I was divorced. My wife left me, and I figured, why do I need a lawyer? Maybe I'm just going to tell the truth, and I just wanted everything to be fair, and I didn't want any hard feelings. But boy, they raked me across the coal. Let me tell you something. Her lawyer. This is what the lawyer said to the judge. She said, "Your Honor, he works in radio. And I thought, oh my God, why is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing?
It was awful.
I'll never forget it. And I thought, okay, I need a lawyer. So I quickly went and got one. But it was crazy back in those days. I remember thinking, well, so the system should be fair. I'll just go and sit in the chamber, because it wasn't a courtroom. It was like chambers. Mm-hmm. So I'm one of those that made that mistake.
Well, trust me, I'm a lawyer. With my first divorce, thank God my only divorce, I got a lawyer because there's a saying that when you represent yourself, you have an ass for a client and a fool for an attorney.
Yeah. Well, anyway, just the end of my story was I met my wife's attorney out on the street sometime later. I mean, I wasn't angry or anything, but I said to her, why did you say that? I mean, why did you say it as if it's such a bad career choice?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I was representing my client. She said, I would have said that no matter what job you had. Your Honor, he's a lawyer.
That's right.
I
Your
thought it
Honor,
would have done you more damage.
he's an attorney.
That's right.
You can't trust him. What in the title? The title is funny and fun, but are you actually making a statement that because attorneys are from law school, you sort of have a better or different understanding of what to expect when you're involved in a lawsuit?
Well, hopefully we have a better understanding of what is coming down the path in litigation. But there is a different mindset that you come out of law school with that most people don't appreciate. We're drummed into us to be objective. We're drummed in to be emotionally distant. So attorneys just approach problems in a different manner than most lay people do. And one of the reasons for the book is try to educate people about that whole process of how attorneys think, assuming, of course, you believe attorneys think. But we're just trained differently than the average duck.
No, I had a great experience. I had a lady attorney. I was a musician playing in a bar. Well, it was like a nightclub. I'll elevate the status by using a different word, but it was a nice place, really. And I had a contract for maybe 8 weeks, let's say, and it changed ownership about 4 weeks into it. And the new owner wanted a different type of entertainment, and I felt like I was due the money that I would have gotten. And so I went and got an attorney, and that was it. I mean, she took care of it, and I got the money, and it was like magic. They wouldn't pay me until I had an attorney. And the good thing was, and I guess you know this, John, I mean, what I got was what I was due. She just added to it so she could get her fee.
Right.
Is that always the way it is?
That's what you try to do. That isn't always the way it works out.
Uh-huh.
And the fees are always the question whether a person hires an attorney or not, because sometimes they just don't have the monetary means to follow throughout the whole case.
Well, there's different ways of compensating an attorney. I cover that in the book, too. But unless you're on a contingent fee, which means the attorney takes a percentage out of whatever we recover, it gets very expensive to hire attorneys. And a lot of people don't have the financial resources to carry through to the end.
I think the radio station has an attorney on retainer. Mm-hmm. If you go to law school to become an attorney, that must be the kind of gig you hope to get, somebody who will put you on retainer, right?
Actually, it depends on how much the retainer is. I have a friend of mine who is also an attorney who does work for insurance companies, and he makes with 5 or 6 clients, makes a rather large living from retainer work. But I've always been in either a contingent fee for the plaintiff personal injury work we do or hourly rate for the healthcare business work we do.
Oh, okay. Is the lawyer who handles mostly like car accident victims, I can't think of a better word, is that hard? Is that a tough life, that attorney?
It's changed over the years, Larry. When I first started doing this, adjusters had a lot of authority to settle cases. They were very well trained. I would go out and have lunch with them, get to know them on a personal basis. That was in the 70s and early 80s. Nowadays, it's all computerized. Adjusters have little or no authority to settle cases. And it's tough sledding. The insurance companies have really tightened up. And from my perspective, they're not being very fair to people who, through no fault of their own, are injured.
The attorney that I mentioned earlier, he works trials. In other words, he actually works with people who might end up in jail or not. You know, he's
a criminal defense lawyer.
Is that? Yeah, I guess that's what he would be. I hope I'm saying the right thing if he's listening. But I've had attorneys, and I already mentioned the divorce, and I mentioned my one little tiny lawsuit that I had. But for the most part, most of my relationship with attorneys has been for intellectual property rights. In which case, there's no real trial. It's just you go in, and the attorney helps you, make sure that the thing you've written, in our case, is ours, and it's pretty simple.
Copyright.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a good way to earn a living. I don't know. I don't know that I can put. What kind of work do you do? I don't know that I can put myself in a position where I'm trying to defend criminals. That's got to be tough.
Well, but when we become lawyers, we swear an oath to uphold the Constitution and uphold the laws. But we also take an oath to advocate for our clients, whether they are guilty or innocent. They deserve, in our system of justice, even a guilty person has a right to an advocate, either to make the state prove the case or to try to mitigate the ultimate justice spent on the accused. So everybody has a right to an attorney. That attorney is supposed to be a true advocate. They can't sort of be there with one hand behind their back because they think, oh, this guy's a bad apple, so I'm not really going to do my job. I'm just going to coast through it. That would be a breach of his obligation as an attorney.
Do you think your education, your law education, helped you better appreciate the Constitution and in fact this country?
Well, I've always loved my country, but yes, I think it was going to college and taking constitutional history as well as constitutional law in law school. Those combined gave me a better appreciation for the United States Constitution and state constitutions.
And I guess because you notice a lot of attorneys become politicians. They enter into the elected office work, and some of them are very good. I've often thought it's probably not a bad idea to have some legal background if you're going to enter into a position where you're the head of the government.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. Congress, a vast majority of the people in Congress are lawyers or ex-lawyers. In Washington State, it's the reverse because we had a public disclosure law passed 20 years ago that made lawyers disclose their clients. Well, you can't disclose your clients without their consent. So we only have, I think, at the last count, we only have 6 attorneys in the entire state legislature.
Oh, that doesn't seem fair.
No,
They give you a catch-22. How are you going to do that? I mean, if you can't run, if your clients don't say you can.
Well, that's client confidentiality. If you're my client, I don't get to tell anybody you're my client.
Well, that's okay. I'm okay with that part, but the part that you can't run.
Well, because then if you don't make the attorneys disclose their clients, you don't know who's pulling the strings.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
You also bring up the difference between criminal and civil cases, and you put O.J. Simpson in there about the 2 different cases that he was involved with.
Well, yeah, and most people don't appreciate the difference in evidentiary standards. In a criminal case, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. So Cochran and his team convinced the jury that they had a doubt about whether O.J. killed his wife and her boyfriend, whereas in a civil case, it's preponderance, which means it's roughly 51 to 49%, and that's a much easier evidentiary burden for a jury to wrap their heads around and come to a decision. And obviously, they came to a contrary decision than the criminal jury did.
Do you think the TV courtroom shows like Judge Judy, et cetera, do you think they educate us as lay people, or do they give us a misunderstanding of what really goes on in the courtroom?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I have nothing against Judge Judy or those kind of, but it's completely different than that. A typical, like this morning, I'm going to head off to a town north of me for a motion hearing, but a trial where you actually have evidence submitted, witnesses, can go on for days. You don't have a 5-minute talk with the judge, and that constitutes a trial. So it's Judge Judy and that ilk, totally change what a real trial and what being a trial lawyer is all about.
I knew a lady who was contacted by one of those shows. It might have been Judge Judy. And the lady was contacted because she was suing a tenant or something like that. Anyway, long story short, they were going to fly her and the defendant out to California for this taping. All the expenses were going to be paid, including whoever lost the case. So if the defendant lost the case, the penalty fee that TV judge would order would be paid for by the TV show. They turned it down. Both parties said, no, I don't want to do that. I guess because they didn't want to be on TV. But it seemed like a way out of that mess. And a free trip to California, too.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you don't mind being ridiculed by Judge Judy.
So when papers are filed and they do have upcoming court cases, are those public? Because how else would that Judge Judy and her staff know about the different court cases that are coming up?
Yeah, unless you get an order to seal the record, and that varies from state to state on how easy that is. It's very difficult in the state of Washington. Absent an order sealing the record, all court records are public records. You can walk into a courthouse and ask to pull any file and read through it, copy it, whatever you want to do.
Wow.
John Peick is our guest. His book is called Clients Are From Earth, Attorneys Are From Law School, and the subtitle, Insider Secrets for Partnering with Your Attorney and Winning Your Legal Case. So if we could be like a fly on the wall just for a second. Let's say you have a client come in and the client was done wrong. It was a legitimate wrong that they want to be corrected with, but they've got dollar signs in their eyes and they want to sue for way more than that seems normal. What do you say to that? How do you tell that person, well, look, you're asking for $1 million and you do 1,000 or something like that? What do you say to that person?
Well, you say probably a little more kindly than your last approach, but you basically start off softly suggesting to them that they have to get their head wrapped around reality instead of illusions. And if push comes to shove, you take a figurative baseball bat, bonk them on the top of the head until they get real. But that happens. People come in and their Aunt Judy 10 years ago got $250,000 for a broken toe, so they think their case is worth $1 million. It isn't. It's the environment today, particularly with personal injury, is really tough. And getting good compensation, when I say good, I mean just compensation, is hard. So you've got to make these people understand. That's one of the problems that causes breakups between attorneys and clients, because the clients are never told what realistic expectations they should have. So they go down the path thinking that they're going to be retiring next year, and all of a sudden reality hits and they get mad.
Oh, wow. So is your book as much for other attorneys as it is for us lay people?
It's primarily for lay people, but certainly lawyers, it may cause some lawyers to think through how they handle their clients, but it's primarily for lay people.
I mean, you've done it a long time, 38 years, so maybe a younger attorney would benefit from some of the things you talk about in the book.
That may be. I'm not going to try to speak for other attorneys. That always gets yourself into dangerous territory. But it's written primarily for lay people.
Sometimes you have illustrated your points with using a funny scenario like the hot air balloon ride.
Right. That's my favorite joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
it talks a lot about how people think about lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
That they have a very low opinion. I was looking at a Gallup poll that was this year, and we were scoring a rousing 19% of people in the country think that we are ethical and that we're worth a damn.
You gave the positive instead of the negative. Well, we've had discussions. I'll just give you some feedback from our listening audience. When we were talking about the cost of health care, you guys were being blamed by some of the listeners, and this is kind of how the dialogue went. It would be something like, the doctors have to charge more because the lawyers are suing for more when somebody has a malpractice suit where it's unfair to be asking for a lot of money, like the lady who spilled the coffee is always brought up, from
Mm-hmm.
the McDonald's case.
That wasn't health care, but that's.
Okay,
and that McDonald's case, what you have to take the context of is that McDonald's had hundreds of complaints that their coffee was too hot, and they did nothing to reduce the temperature. And the reason they kept it so hot is because they discovered that people would come in, order breakfast and a cup of coffee, and they'd never get around to drinking a coffee before they finished their breakfast, and they'd leave. So McDonald's didn't have to refill the coffee cup.
Oh.
That was the whole underlying basis for that
wow.
McDonald's case. And when the jury heard that, that's why they put punitive damage, because it's primarily punitive damages in that jury verdict.
Yeah.
But to go back to medical malpractice, studies have demonstrated that only 0.1% of the cost of health care is from medical malpractice suits. It sounds good to say, those attorneys are just running the cost of health care up, but it's a minute amount of money. It's more the technology, and a consolidation of hospitals and doctors that's driving healthcare.
Do you have, is there a who's who of attorneys so that before a person hires an attorney, he can go somewhere and check out all the credentials to see which one he or she might prefer?
Yeah, the one that's been around the longest is called Martindale-Hubbell, and they're both in book form and online. And then some of the newer internet sites like FindLaw are places where you can check out lawyers.
In the back of the book, for the listeners, I want to be fair to the book. The back of the book has a glossary of legal terms. That in and of itself is probably going to be very helpful for you. I should keep this on hand when we have our Wednesday show so I can sound like I know something. And then the rest of the book is really good information for us lay people as far as what to expect, what to prepare for, how to, like Robin said, how to choose an attorney, and maybe just a way to be less know-it-all, less of a know-it-all. I think sometimes we enter into an attorney's office as know-it-alls.
Well, I run into that type, but the type I typically run into more so than the know-it-alls are the ones who are scared of their own shadow.
Oh, really?
And because they don't understand attorneys, and they're frightened by the predicament they find themselves in, because most people don't get into trouble by choice. And it's a big mystery to them. And so naturally they're a little bit scared of the whole proposition.
Yeah.
I like your organizational ideas, especially when you started out with mind maps, because it's really important to get your own thoughts in order before you pursue any kind of legal action.
Yeah, that was David Madison's contribution to the book, that chapter.
Let me take a phone call from a listener. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for calling.
Hey, good morning. I really think that 19% favorable rating is kind of optimistic, but I guess that goes to the point where if you ask the right questions, you can get the right answers. But my other comment, I like brick and mortar, and I've had to have some really simple legal documents. In my opinion, they should have been real simple done. And I don't know if it's okay to say LegalZoom. I don't want to advertise for them, but these online legal services where you can have a document done for $100, but if you walk into a shingle attorney, in other words, whatever comes through the door, they'll do it for you. It's $300, and get your opinion on that, please. I'll hang up and get the answer. And the other question I have for you: do you know who Atticus Finch is? Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Two questions in one. Atticus Finch, do you know who that is?
It's To Kill a Mockingbird. And he was the lawyer defending the black gentleman accused of murder in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Ah, okay. And as far as using either the online services, or sometimes you can even go to Staples and get like forms that are already filled out, or not really ready to be filled out. That kind of legal document, I guess. What are your thoughts on those?
Well, there are uses for those types of services, and certainly they're more cost effective than going to a brick and mortar, as he put it, shingle attorney. It sounds like we have some kind of a condition, but but what you lack in those is specificity, because they're very general. You don't have an attorney's malpractice backing up if there's a mistake. And what I find is that they'll do an incorporation for you, get it filed for much less money than I do, but they don't necessarily give you bylaws. They don't give you action of directors, action of shareholders. They don't get the annual report squared away. So there's all sorts of other services that are entailed in the brick and mortar fee that companies like LegalZoom it isn't that they do a bad job, they just don't provide all of the forms that you need to start a corporation.
Oh, okay. And is what's the thing called limited liability LLC?
LLC.
The thing you see.
LLC.
Is that just as viable as being incorporated?
Well, it varies from state to state, but to answer it from Washington State perspective, yes.
Okay.
It's a corporate entity. It's just a different
It's a way to protect
type of corporate entity. Yeah. And there are differences, but it's effective. It's an effective business model.
One of the things I think the book will serve is some of these questions without having to go to an attorney. The book will actually some preliminary questions will be answered, maybe saving you some time and maybe some money. Mm-hmm. So I have a copy of the book. It's called Clients Are From Earth, Attorneys Are From Law School. If you would like the copy I have, call me, and I'll leave it for you here at the studios. The number is 622-9622. That is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline. And the rest of us have to go buy it. John, do you have a website you can tell us about?
You can go to www.peicklaw.com, PEICKLAW, one word, or you can go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble online and simply type in my last name, Peick, P-E-I-C-K.
Okay, and of course, is it available as an ebook as well?
It's available as an ebook as well.
Okay, let me go to the phone and give this one away. Good morning, you've got the book. Who's this?
This is Ken.
Ken, okay, and you know we're at the mall, right?
Yes.
Okay, Ken, it'll be, what's the first initial of your last name?
S.
S as in Sam?
S as in Smith.
S as in Smith. Okay, you've got it. It'll be waiting for you.
All right, bye.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think this is going to help a lot of people. And, John, thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us and for getting up so early out on the West Coast. And come back anytime.
Thanks.
All right.
I appreciate it.
We'll take a little break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm here to tell you a few things about ABC Frederick's Appliance. They sell not only new, but used guaranteed appliances. When you call ABC Frederick's Appliance, they will provide service on what they sell and any appliances that you own.